Welcome back to Two Homers and a Realist. This is bowl season, boys.
We made it.
We made it. We made a bowl. We're going to be there. OU is playing Navy in the Armed Forces Bowl.
Thank you, Alabama.
Yeah, thank you, Sooners, for beating Alabama.
Good.
I'm Steve.
Lucas.
I'm Connor.
Jay.
And we'd like to thank our illustrious sponsor, Dr. Michael Kiehn. Dr. Michael Kiehn, board-certified surgeon specializing in orthopedic sports medicine. For over 20 years, Dr. Kiehn has served the greater Oklahoma City area along with western Oklahoma. Not only does this include surgical skills in primarily the knees and shoulders, he is a constant figure on football sidelines throughout Oklahoma high schools and colleges. Dr. Kihn's deep commitment to sports and devotion to his patients proves he is a man to see, even though he is sitting out bowl season as an Oklahoma State fan. But he also likes OU, so we'll give him that. So we've got a lot to cover right now. We're in the midst of the beginning of bowl season, but more importantly, it is the award season. We're going to predict every award. I'm just kidding. We're not going to do any of that crap. But we are going to talk about the portal. We're going to talk about where OU stands and all of that. There's a lot of worry among the fan base. There's a lot of concern. I don't think it's misplaced. I think there's reason for worry, but I also think we can be calm and just relax and wait. We're 3 days into the portal. Things can develop for us in a good way. But it's a moving, fluid arena that we're going to have to succeed in. We actually had a poll to that extent this week. And how did you guys answer? I asked, how good does OU need to be on net, ins and outs, in this portal go around? The choices were critical, high but not crucial. I think moderate. I need to pull it up. And
Critical.
And doesn't matter, or something to that extent. You thought critical?
Yep. I don't think it. I know it.
You know it.
It is extremely critical.
Critical.
Yeah.
Like, we can't possibly be good if we don't.
We can't build the team
really
unless
great.
we get the right transfer board.
Well, that's kind
Well,
of
that's a little different thing, right?
question. I put high but not critical.
Wow.
I also put high.
I put high but not critical,
I think the quarterback
or
is.
not crucial.
I don't want to say I answered it without
Any thought?
without the quarterback being like the main focus on it. But
I think it's high but not crucial. I mean, most of our listeners thought it was critical. 71% critical, 30% high, nobody moderate, nobody low. So that's good, because it's not moderate or low. But to me, like, we've got a lot of good players on the roster. It's not impossible that we can win a lot of football games if we just do fairly well.
I also think I answered before Farouk, Anderson, Andrell.
No, Anderson was already in.
Anderson might have been, but I know Farouk and Andrell
Weren't what? Sorry?
weren't in the portal yet.
When that was released, yeah. And I mean, the Farouk one, I think sorry, back to the question. The reason you wrongly chose high? The reason I logically chose high is I'm with Steve. We are OU. I do think we have a team that you can field. I'm not saying that you don't need to go get guys. You need to go get guys. You don't have to hit every portal out of the park, though.
I'm with
I think you can go get some role players or some guys that fill some spots.
This team we had this year just went 6-6.
Yeah, but the question
they're not going to be better next year unless you bring in some portal guys.
The question is the question is not use the portal or don't use the portal. It's, does it have to be this knock out of the park freaking high rated guys across the board to make it a win? And I don't think it is. I think you can have one big portal pickup and fill in the gaps with a couple of other ones, one or two big portal pickups. I don't think you have to have these. I'm not saying we shouldn't. I'm not saying we shouldn't go after those guys, but I'm not going to lose my crap if, we're not getting three top-rated wide receivers.
We need 5 alone on offense to be a 6-6 team again next year.
No, because we had nobody. We had nobody this year.
We didn't lose anybody. We didn't lose anybody that contributed to the 6-6.
Yeah, there's nobody.
And we're going to have an offensive coordinator.
The quarterback's didn't contribute.
I think we have a quarterback that, with a competent OC, we could win easily 6 games.
Yeah, he would contribute to the loss column more than the win column, I would say, as well.
Definitely One of them at Missouri.
So I don't know. I mean, it's
In terms of, yeah, like, especially when you go look at the receiver room, all the receivers that left, that they did nothing for us.
yes, you need guys for sure.
They
Like
didn't
there's
play- they
no
didn't play the
doubt
whole year.
you've got to go use the portal. But to say that we need these, a Dion Burks at every Dion Burks rated portal
Deion
player
Burks
at every
was
position.
part of 3 of our 6 wins.
Yeah, well, he's coming back, so, that we know of.
Maybe it's semantics.
Gibson's coming back as far as we know.
But to me, I don't think it's make or break.
I mean, to replace to get upgrades over a Brandon Thompson or a Kearney or a Raggins and a Sharp, I don't think that's hard to get through the portal. Like, I don't think you have to go get these great receivers somewhere
Right.
to get those. You get good receivers at other places, they'll easily replace that.
Well, if they're functional, somewhere between the guys that couldn't play because they were injured and the guys we ended up putting on the field.
I mean, I
which
see-
who were totally inexperienced as well as just
Like
didn't seem very
receivers,
good.
receivers that we've offered right now, they have 700 yards in the season last year, and the fans are like, "Oh, this guy, what are we doing going after Miami Howard guy?" That's twice as much as our leading receiver from this year.
right. Our number one
Our
player.
best player.
Yeah.
Bauer Sharp.
So you get 3 of those guys that had 700 yards each last year. It's infinitely better than what we had.
Well, and it's you have to get guys who can go do a job as well. You don't go get 3 track guys or 3 Brennan Thompsons who can run vertically down the field.
The right role player.
No, go get guys that can run routes and catch footballs.
Well, that's where, for me, I have to just trust that Arbuckle's not hands off on the portal. I mean, I
Yeah.
would think that
It can't be.
I would think he's 60% the deciding factor, so to speak, in the receivers coaches, the 40 other 40.
Well, and right now, that's all
Like, he
Arbuckle,
needs to be like, this is a guy I can work with as an OC
Right.
and get the ball.
and that's all Arbuckle should be doing right now.
Yeah.
Like there's
That's all they'll
nothing
let
else.
him do.
We're not.
Since
He's
they're not
not
gonna let him coach.
not coaching the bowl game, so it's all portal focus. I would think. Like
Yeah.
Emmett Jones is splitting duties between.
Well, the only thing it
portal
might be in
and
addition
prep.
to portal is recruiting
Recruiting.
coaches.
Yeah,
He could be
coaches.
recruiting
Yeah,
coaches.
True.
It seems like Joe John's probably gone. I would imagine if there's any opportunity for him to, if he wants to bring somebody in a different role, this would be the time he'd be looking into doing that. But other than that, yeah, I think you're right. It's portal. You
We
know,
have to use the portal,
you
like,
have to use
you gotta
it.
use it.
No one disagrees.
and you need to do well in it.
Yes.
Where
But-
was Joe John rumored to be? Odom, where'd he go?
Purdue.
Purdue.
That's about right.
There's a chance he could be
Were they-
offensive coordinator.
Were they 2-10? Yeah, that's about right.
I know it's the obvious question, but what would anybody see in Joe John's
Development?
resume?
Well, I don't see what they would see, what we see in his development for the tight end room to keep.
Well, in anything, yeah, it's like it. I mean,
Well, if you look at it, like how much are you going to have to pay him versus a high school coach who might bring you recruits or something? Like, I don't see it at all. I don't understand how these guys continue to fail sideways, if
Well,
not up,
Odom worked with him before. Would be one of the reasons he would bring him in.
I guess. But is it, to me, that speaks negatively to Odom's judgment.
I mean, that's what Levy did with Joe John. That's how he ended up here.
it's
Yeah,
what
and they
Brent-
were
what-
best
It's what
friends.
Brent
Other
does
than
with
being
every
alumni.
coach that he hires. So
One of the big worries and criticisms. Well, how are we doing in the portal? Let's talk about portal. We've seen a lot of guys enter, a lot of guys that are potentially being processed. We don't know. A lot of guys that were suffering from injuries. We haven't lost a lot of production to the portal.
Because there was no production.
True, but we
But
had
still
some
none
of
to
it.
lose.
I mean, I was
it's
shocked.
true.
I was really surprised with Kanai Walker going in.
Yeah,
I was a little surprised with Vickers going in because I thought he might be like the third corner next year, essentially.
that room must be really competitive. Though.
well, we didn't lose anyone else on defense. That we didn't. We
knows
McCullough.
McCullough,
McCullough. Okay, yeah,
Not a loss.
not a big loss.
it's not a loss.
And I actually think of as much as we've done right defensively, I think that is the one player that
We
we
missed.
completely mismatched.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because he was an elite,
Yeah.
he was an elite pass rusher
right.
at Indiana, and we tried to make him into Simmons 2.0, and it just didn't work.
Yeah, so that's potentially on.
I think that's the
Brent
only wrong thing we've done defensively
That's a
in
good
3
point.
years. Like, honestly,
You know, yeah, there's not a lot on offense to lose productively, except you didn't lose Xavier or Xavier. You didn't lose.
Not yet. Not yet.
Yeah.
You didn't lose. That's true.
I haven't heard Tatum's name
You
floated
haven't?
around at all.
No.
I bet we
Or-
lose.
or Sawchuck.
I bet we lose a running back though.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all think it's.
I think
probably
we'll lose.
Hicks is already in the portal.
Huh?
Hicks is in the portal.
Yeah, I bet we
Yeah.
lose a running back who has provided production for us. I bet we lose Sawchuck or Barnes. True.
Yeah, that's a
Well,
good.
it would make sense because if Tatum and Robinson are your two starters next, your two main
Yeah,
guys.
what are you doing?
then
Yeah,
Why would you stay if you're Barnes or
No,
Sawchuck?
and you have the kid who just came in that you were
those
talking
are
about
guys
last
that can get some serious playing time at a different place. So
Yeah,
I think Barnes
totally see that.
Barnes seems very connected at the hip with DeMarco.
Yes.
Mhm.
So I could see if DeMarco.
Well, they're
moves
both
on.
Vegas guys, right? And like that's
Yeah, I
that
can
was
see
one
that.
big keep for OU when Lincoln left.
Well, yeah,
It's
but
like,
they were the ones
at
that were butting
Barnes.
heads, weren't they, last year? Because Barnes wasn't getting in.
No, it's Taweed.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think
that's
that was everybody.
right. Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. So
I think, I figured, and I'm guilty of this myself, but we should get used to the fact that the first week, the world is ending,
It stinks. Yeah.
and the second
Right.
week is, well, oh, okay,
Brighter
we're back. We're gonna
pastures.
win.
it's a
We're gonna
great
win the whole
point.
thing. Next
It's a great point. Well, it's a great point. It's a big swing that are wrong in both directions, but also
because these
you
kids have.
expect to lose more by in terms of people entering the portal than all of a sudden people like I'm going to Oklahoma. That's not you're not going to a player who we're going to be trying to get
It's gonna weigh their
with a
options.
limited they're going to weigh their
Yeah.
options with a limited exception of if it was somebody like Matower. They're not going to just say I'm in and I'm going here. They're going to weigh their options and see what's going on. Do you think there's any chance any of these guys pull back and come back to Oklahoma who are in the portal?
No, I don't think so.
Is that because we truly are processing them or truly because they are done with us?
I'm hoping we're processing them. I'm hoping they've gotten under the table offers and come and talk to our coaches, and our coaches just like, we're simply not going to pay you that. You
Yeah.
can't even get on the field. You can't stay on the field.
Right.
Like in Farouk's example, I think Farouk is a really solid third or fourth receiver. I don't think he's your number one or your number two, but if you've got other guys taking coverages away and you can get Farouk the ball all the time,
Sure.
he's a great player for that.
Except when he fumbles.
Yeah, but if Maryland did, say, hey, come back home, here's X amount of money, and he went and told our coaches that, and our coaches were just like, I'm not giving you $300,000.
We can go get an equal or greater than receiver for less.
That has more
Yep.
years.
Yeah,
And
it has
more-
more years.
yeah,
and
I
more
mean, we were saying
facts.
that about Farouk since how long has he been here?
Maybe with Caleb.
Maybe with
2021.
Caleb.
Yeah, so in the
2021.
Oregon game, right? And like it was just like he has these flashes, but it just never kind of comes together.
And honestly, if he didn't have those fumbles, which should have, could have,
Would
whatever.
have beat Arizona with that.
We beat Kansas as well.
He's looked at differently. Too.
We beat Kansas.
Yeah.
We're in the playoff.
But he is different. Not
Or
just
the
looks
Big 12
different, he is
championship.
different if he doesn't have the fumble.
I will say, I mean, I think the way I answer the question is one thing, but I do think it is crucial for OU to go after big guys. Like
Yes.
I think I don't think
You've
you
got to pick up the phone.
I don't
and
think
try.
you shy away from
No.
anyone like, oh, Bama and Georgia after this guy, like let's take a step back because they're at, and that's one thing we haven't seen. And at receiver specifically, maybe if you narrowed that question to a specific group of players, that is a crucial portal position for me.
Well, my frustration, so, most of the positions I can see where they're weighing their options. The one that I am disappointed in that we don't have an answer to is Notre, because it's got to be really hard to go get the receivers we're talking about when you can't
You don't have a
promise
quarterback.
them you have this quarterback coming with this offensive coordinator and be able to show him what he did last year with this coordinator.
Yeah.
And what we can do moving forward with you coming on board. It's got to be hard to get receivers that way, I
Yeah.
would think, unless he is on board and you're telling these guys he's on board. But if you did that, I even think that would slip out somehow.
Well, and it's risky too. Like even if that's the case,
It's not for sure.
people change their mind.
Yeah.
Like Washington State, who apparently is putting a package together for him, could come in from the top rope and say, I'm going to throw this huge sum of money at you just to keep you here.
Or
Regardless
someone,
of how good we're
with
gonna be.
real pockets.
Yeah.
That's desperate. like that someone that doesn't get a quarterback
Michigan.
right now.
Oregon. Oregon has those guys, but yeah, someone like
Auburn.
someone of that caliber.
I don't know if
Auburn doesn't pick
I don't know if
anybody.
Auburn's got big money. Michigan's got money.
Is
I
there,
think all the
is there,
SECs
getting
have-
back to the guys in the portal, is there any chance that if we change medical staff, Anderson thinks about coming back? Like if that's his biggest
Maybe.
complaint was how his injury was handled.
Yeah.
That maybe he still has love for OU because his brother and all that kind of stuff, and he enjoyed his time here. And he's really just disappointed with how all that happened. And maybe you could come out and you say, look, we're changing medical staff, that we're going to do things differently. We still want you here because you're our biggest weapon.
Right.
You know, come back.
But what if he's really not that okay, and we know that, and we're not willing to pay him, and we told him, hey, if
Could be.
these people over here are going to give you $500K,
Go for it.
do it.
Yeah.
Because
He's
So that
going
could
to A&M this weekend.
That could be. So both of you could be right.
Yeah.
You could be right, but you could be right as well that we don't actually want him.
And I think Brent's mentality, like
not that we don't want him, but for you,
Yeah,
because we
not-
do care
yeah,
about you.
No, yeah.
If you
I'd
can
be-
go get this somewhere, go
I'd
get
be
it.
curious though how Brent, like just with his, moral compass that he has, if you enter the transfer portal, I mean, I feel like you're cutting.
Then he needs to get over that.
I agree.
He let Weiss come back, right? Weiss put his name in the portal when Brent came in, and then he took it out and stayed on the
He
team.
did.
So
That's true.
now that
Well, we're
was year
probably
one.
not in a
and then he
position. We're probably
That
not
was
in
year
a
one, and then he
position.
played.
To be picky.
He
to
played
do
a
that.
year, and then he went to Missouri for
Yeah.
2 years.
Yeah.
I still
Beggars
think
can't be
though,
choosers.
if you really like the initial thought process when you see the people in the portal, they really are 90% of them are injured players that can't stay on the field.
Yeah.
And at some point, I don't care how good they were at one point in time, you have to go get people that
No,
are
I
at
agree.
maybe their equals that aren't injured
Well, I
and
can-
haven't been injured.
I think that's where we talk a lot about in recruiting that it's great to go get the high profile players when they're good. It's even better if you can find the diamonds in the rough. This is your opportunity to moneyball this thing and go find the diamonds in the rough who want to make the move up to the next level. So go find the guy who fits what you're trying to do, who's a great fit all around for you, and that you've got the program that he can leave that program that is lesser than you for.
I agree with that, but my only worry is I think Brent and the staff lean on that mentality like holistically. Like the outside of Dominic Williams and I guess Deion Burks, like those are the biggest high profile guys we've had come in.
But we did go for them. I mean, we went all out to make sure we got it.
I know, but that's my point, and I love that. And that's kind of I wanted to get to this before we moved on to something else, but like I feel like these last 3 seasons we've led with this culture mentality, the soul mission mentality, with family and everything else. Great, that's fine. Like I like hugging my brother as well, and like hanging out, like we're all family. It's awesome. But if you're not, you guys, are my brothers. If you're not leading right now in this day and age of college football with dollars and cents, like it doesn't matter what kind of culture you have. You're not going to win football games, and you're not going to get the guys in the door that are going to make a difference and an impact in your program that could potentially be there. Like
Well,
I think the
surely
soul
he
mission,
feels enough heat
I would hope
right
so,
now that he's,
but like
resting
he
on
never
those
should be in
laurels
this.
a
Like
little
I
bit.
feel like we led with the soul mission was great up front because it kind of reset hey, Lincoln did all this stuff and it was disorganized. We're bringing in a foundation. We're going to build a culture, etc. Great, but like right now, that's not good enough. I think in the long run, the soul mission is great. Like it's a differentiator, but I think we're leaning on that to be the differentiating factor
You see, I
with
hope
us and
not.
other people.
I'm not talking about that though. I'm talking about Trace Fords of the world.
Yeah.
Where they're trying to make the leap from a lesser school to a bigger school,
Right.
and they have the opportunity to do so.
Yeah.
And even better, if you find that North Texas guy or Miami of Ohio guy or whoever who can make that move, and now you strike when you need, and that's the position OU's in where we need people, and we have the positions to give. Not only because we didn't recruit a full and sign a full class, but also because we've got a lot of guys in the portal.
Yeah.
Texas doesn't have a lot of guys in the portal. Georgia doesn't have a lot of guys in the portal. So this is your opportunity to go out and grab those guys who they would love to have,
Mhm.
but they just don't have a position for.
Yeah. And like I guess maybe that was where I was mixing up, but like Diamond in the Rough could be the kid from Miami, Ohio, who is one of the top rated receivers right now, trying to
Right.
make a step up from
Right.
Miami of Ohio to OU. That's fair.
What also hasn't
But
happened
you need to go after it, and like you need to throw things at it.
to a team like Texas, well,
Money
they're in the
things.
they're in
Yes.
the playoffs. So how many of these guys are gonna be in the portal in January? They're on playoff teams. You don't want to just shoot all your money right now at the Miami Ohio guy when there's a chance that a I don't know Notre Dame kid that starts decides
Sure.
he wants to go somewhere else because he doesn't want to pretend to be Catholic anymore and he wants to go to a different school, or a Boise State kid that lights it up in the playoff
Better
and
example.
has 200-yard games because they happen to win
Or
one
an Indiana
something.
guy.
And then
Yeah, what if Genty's not ready to go pro?
Yeah.
Genty's like, I'm hitting the portal.
But I
You
mean,
better
like,
have a spot left.
It's almost like waiting to announce
Yeah.
an OC to make sure you get the right guy. And like, if you have a guy or you have a guy that you can get now, that
Yeah.
you
Bird
can-
in the
you
hand
can, like
versus-
just do it.
Yeah.
Because guess what? You're gonna lose. We're gonna lose guys in the spring. Like everyone's gonna be losing and gaining all the time. And I think that's. I mean, Lucas, to your point, I think that's why you're seeing some of the guys that are even in the playoff. Like some guys who have gotten snaps this season say they're gonna they're gonna be in the portal.
now, didn't the Georgia running back say he was gonna be in the portal?
Yeah.
ETN said he's gonna
Yeah.
be in the portal, and he played the
That
SEC
was
championship.
that was the week before the SEC championship game.
Yeah.
And he
And
played
he
it.
tore up.
Yeah,
Yeah. It threw me.
Crazy.
Ava she goes, isn't he in the portal?
that could be
I said, yeah, I
that
don't
could be a
know.
negotiating tactic too.
That could
He
be.
could say,
For sure.
"I'm going to go in the portal," and then he lights it up in the SEC championship. He lights it up in a playoff game or two.
Okay, we're gonna.
And Georgia's like, "We got to pay this kid $1 million."
Well, even if not, just to say, I'm going to go in the portal. This is something that I've wondered about. I was talking about this with a friend today. It could be that you've gotten yourself into as a league, as an organization, a trap that you need to get out of, where everyone thinks their negotiating tactic is announce that you're in the portal versus go privately to your coach and your staff and your donors indirectly and say, I'm thinking about going into the portal. You don't have to make that public.
I think
But
a
right
lot
now-
of these players don't tell their coaches at all.
I think,
And that's the
the
mistake.
I
And
think
that could
the
be the
agents
mistake they're
a
in.
lot of this too.
And a lot of and they need to reconfigure that. It's in everybody's interest to say, listen,
Transparency
especially
is
in the
key.
program's interest. If you have a desire to come to us first, don't announce you're going into the
Yeah.
portal. And from the standpoint of, I know that helps the programs and the coaches, etc. For the player standpoint, it can help them a lot too because it doesn't burn bridges with fans and their own cachet.
It's toxicity.
Because
yeah.
there is some toxicity to it, and not just that. It's kind of like the difference between me having a conversation with management saying in my job, hey, look, I think I should be making more, versus going out and doing a job interview and getting an offer and coming in saying take it or leave it.
Well, see, I was getting ready
Because
to say
even
the
if I
same
take,
thing
even if
because,
they match it, they're like, that's the guy who went
kinda
out
gross,
and,
yeah.
and kind of held us hostage.
well, but
But it is a business.
in my field, I think that's what a lot of people do. Like, I think a lot of times your boss doesn't know you're looking for another job until you walk in there to give your 2 weeks.
Right, but in this business, they've got to know that, right? Or they better learn fast. How do you not know these guys are doing
But it's
that?
really hard to go up to your boss, be like, hey,
It shouldn't be. That's
I'm
where your
thinking
agent
about,
comes in. I
I'm
don't have an
thinking
agent.
about, I'm thinking about, interviewing for this other
But you don't have
position.
an agent, and I don't have an agent. They have agents. The agent should be doing that to say, look, I'm talking to my guys. Here's what I think they're worth. I've been putting my feelers out. Here's where I think we need to land on this deal. Versus just like going out there
Go
and
see what you can get.
Yeah.
and being such a
The-
blunt instrument.
The other huge problem is and I'm sure everyone could have seen this coming, but I think the players have by far have used their leverage inappropriately in terms of they've overvalued themselves. I
Oh,
think
yes.
every single
Yes.
player
And the agent,
has
The-
overvalued
the agent has every reason to overvalue them.
because there's no market value set for anybody.
Well, not just that. The agent's like a real estate agent. And the problem with real estate agents is it's the reverse. The real estate agent doesn't care that your house is actually worth $500,000. If they get the deal done at $450,000, they're going to, the difference to them is very minuscule. The difference to you is $50,000. Difference to them is very minuscule. So their encouragement is go out there. Let's go. Let's push the envelope. So what they need, it's a little broken. And they need to understand that and understand those guys don't have your exact best interest at heart. They're just trying to maximize they get maximized by ringing the cash register and processing you to go to the next thing.
Yeah.
Now, we talk about this stuff's headed towards the NFL model, right? As far as signing contracts, like 2-year contracts for these kids, stuff like that, and then being employees of the university. What point are trades available? Will that be a thing in college football? If you're on a 2-year contract with OU, you played your year, you have a year left, and they said, "Oh, Colorado offered us this linebacker,
No,
and
because
you're our tight end, and they need you. We're just going to trade."
that'll never happen.
Never.
No, it brings in education into it. Like the kid is, I mean, we can all say like he's a paid athlete. He's still a student athlete. Like he's still choosing to get an education somewhere.
For now,
I don't know. I think it might.
I don't know. I
I
don't
think
know
it
if
might
you.
happen.
I think it's a long shot.
I don't
but
know
I'm
if you
not
can
gonna
make
rule the
someone. You
possibility out.
can't make
If they-
someone go get a degree somewhere else.
If they're on contract, all of that makes it.
I
that
guess.
much-
Yeah. I guess.
Well,
it's
so
contractual.
you're saying they push them. I get it. I get your objection. I'm thinking they're on contract and they go get a different contract offer. But we
Oh,
know
you're
they
like a-
process guys.
Yeah.
So it may be everybody comes together on the table and say, what's in everyone's best interest? Let's cut a deal.
It could be like a soccer
A
situation
little different than the
where,
NFL.
you know, somebody's at PSG on a 5-year contract. In this case, it's a 2-year.
Right.
And then you played your year, and then another school's like, "Hey, we'll give you $300,000 for player X to come play for us." And as long as the player agrees,
Yeah.
Right.
then they do
player,
it.
player,
I agree with all
Yeah,
that. And I think
that
your
would be-
objection's
that'd be
right. Connor.
crazy.
It would be the player is going to have to agree to it because they have to go get the education. They have to.
Or
agree
what if
to
you
it.
They just take OU online classes and
Or
then
what
they
if
go
you did-
play for Ohio
That
State.
could be
What
too.
if it happened? What if it
not
happens
ruling
like
that
how
out
it
either.
did this year with our wide receivers? You get up to the season and you're like, we've lost 4 receivers.
Yeah,
And you're like,
we need a
We've
third
got
receiver
Barnes.
from Boise.
we're gonna give you
Yeah.
we're gonna give you Barnes and you give us 2 of your wide receivers.
Or from name a school in the Big 12 or wherever who really isn't going to be a contender, right? And
Yeah.
you're like, you make the move.
I'll
I
give you
can
my
see that.
5-star backup for, 2 of your wide receivers.
All of that,
Yeah, you trade Sawchuk
all that's
and
potentially
you
out there.
get Arizona's badass receiver
Right.
because Arizona's not going anywhere and they need a running back. And
Yeah.
you've got 5 running backs that are playing. So you send them Sawchuk and you get the receiver.
To a different degree than they do in the pros, I think that is a model. I don't think you're going to get it like they do in the pros,
Right.
where, in the classic story where the guy is in one locker room and then before the game he's changing.
Or the baseball player that
uniforms.
this year played
Yeah.
in the same inning for both teams
Yeah,
because they
that's not going
he
to
played
happen.
for one team and then they suspended the game and then when they redid the game he was back on
That
he was on the
really
other
is
team
wild.
and then he got to bat for both teams in the same inning.
Yeah.
I will say that would be bad. Don't do that. Don't do that. I'm as progressive as anybody on these ideas and these changes. Don't do that. Well, I don't know. It's a moving target, and we'll have a lot more to talk about in the coming pods about where we are in portal, what we've accomplished, and what we've achieved. Nobody is disagreeing. We have got to go out and fill some very important positions, and that'll be telling who we get, where they plug in, for what we can expect on offense going forward with this new coordinator for sure. Who he's able to attract. To a degree, as bad as we were on offense, if he just goes and gets a bunch of Washington State guys, we could be okay with our defense. That's also sort of a red flag, though. If he goes and gets just a bunch of Washington State guys and that's the only people he can get, you're like, oh, that's
Very
it. That's,
Indiana of him.
yeah, exactly. And so you kind of worry about what's
The
the,
Indiana that's in the playoffs.
what's the next step. Yeah, by the skin of a very
Touche.
bad
Touche.
schedule.
Touche.
Yeah, if we played their schedule, we might be in the playoffs.
No,
and I'm not exaggerating.
Nope,
But
It wouldn't be far off.
that's an 8-4 squad right
Wouldn't
there.
be far off. I think we're 9-3 at least with their schedule.
Completely.
I'm in agreement with you though. Even if we hardly ended up with any receivers from the portal, assuming we have Burks and Gibson back and Jordan and Thompson and whatever else, if you get a Mateer and you have a competent offensive coordinator, it's going to be better than what we had.
Yeah.
Almost twice as good as what.
And
Yeah.
the scheme works for the offensive line.
It doesn't take much for us to be 8-4 at all. and with something a little bit better, 9-3, and now you're in a
Actually,
normal SEC year. You're talking about playoffs.
we're gonna look back at
You're
this.
talking about playoffs.
We're gonna look
Not
back at
anymore.
this, and it's amazing that we're
9-3.
It's amazing that we're 6-6.
Yeah.
That's how bad we are on offense.
Yeah,
Like in the moment,
I
it
agree.
We
feels
had
terrible.
4 run downs.
But looking
Well,
back, it's
Tulane's
horrendous.
okay.
We were that bad,
Houston. Okay,
and we were still in games. That's what's crazy.
we were in games. We're in
In
Missouri.
games.
We're in.
Should have won this.
We're in every
We
game.
should have a seventh
Should have
win.
won
We're in
Missouri.
every
We
game
should have a
except
seventh
Texas.
win right now.
We were in Ole Miss for half. We were at
We were in LSU for
As bad as
But
we
that's-
were in
And
games.
we are horrendous offensively.
We're
really
we're
bad.
like
really bad.
we are back to John Blake level of bad this season in terms of how bad we were on offense. Just totally inept.
It's pathetic.
Like we don't know how to play the game. It was insane.
But we only scored 2 offensive touchdowns a game, right? In conference play,
Yeah, I think
Right?
so. Yeah.
or
No, we
we
didn't
never
have-
had
we
more
had
than
more-
2.
we didn't have more
Yeah,
than
more
two.
than-
No more than two. Yeah.
If you just add
Didn't average.
one more offensive touchdown per game, we might have 3 more.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah, and what was the stat I sent you guys last week? It was Jackson Arnold only had 11 passes over 20 yards all season.
It's almost
All season.
I don't understand.
almost how you don't even do that.
Like it's insane. Multiple games with 0. Like it's wild.
I bet Mateer had that many in a game last year.
Yeah. Oh yeah. For sure.
Maybe not in a game.
I bet he had that many.
11 over 20 yards.
Yeah, that's not that.
Yeah.
I bet Kyler had 100.
Well, that's like
On the
comparing. yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
It could. I mean, it's not out of the question.
Well, we're talking about we're dancing around what do we have to do to get good enough to get in the playoffs. So let's talk about playoffs and let's talk about our predictions about both playoffs and the over-under.
I don't want to
So
talk about mine.
it's a time to come back to where we were with predictions early in the season, preseason. And I think this is telling about, where teams are and where they're not. So we predicted, I think it was 17, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 16, 17, 18 teams. 18 teams totals, over under. They range from the meat of the SEC, the top of the Big Ten, and we threw in a couple others like Oklahoma State and USC. And I actually did well in this one, which is different than my other predictions. I got 13 of the 18 right, 72%
On over-under win total.
win totals for the regular season. Connor and Jay both had 10 out of the 18, 56%. Lucas, not so good, 33%, 6 out of 18. We all missed on Oklahoma. We all hit actually on Clemson and LSU. Florida State, which was kind of a gimme after they had lost the first game. But we downgraded it a game. They just continued to be awful. We all hit on Penn State, even though none of us think very highly of Penn State, which is interesting. And so we get to the playoff predictions. Playoff is tough. Playoff is tough to predict. And yet I think we did okay. So Lucas was number 1 in this. He got 8 of the 12 teams right. Jay and I got 7. Connor got 6. He got half of the field right. That's pretty damn good. If you look at how difficult it is, Jay and I actually nailed 2 of the positions. We knew that Georgia would be number 2, and somehow, let's see, I got Penn State in 6, correct, and
Clemson
you got Clemson at 12. Way to go! That was maybe the toughest of any of them. How?
Because we all figured that was reserved for the out of the non-power 5.
Well, what's overly amazing of Jay, he has Clemson over 9 wins, which he gets right, and then he comes in and he gets it right that they're going to be 12.
Yeah, that's some crap.
That's some
crackhead stuff.
damn good predicting right there. So
Give me your drugs.
had a good year.
the playoff was set, and I think we're not charting new territory here. However, we were one of the early ones to say this playoff is messed up. The format is messed up. The positioning, the seeding is messed up.
I actually think we're the first.
Yeah, we may be the first.
The not reseeding.
No, just
something
of
I
the-
wanted.
of the
I wanted to have
5.
reseeding.
We didn't talk much about the 6 seed,
Reseeding's one thing,
but specifically the 5 seed.
the 5 seed.
Yeah.
The 5 seed, which is a golden
Yeah,
opportunity.
and
The fact that
nationally
you've
they
got
didn't realize that.
You got 2 teams
Until week
who are
12.
just a joke, and they get an automatic bye. And then you've got a team like Texas who's going to get a home field advantage. It's not the 12 best teams, and it's not the 12 best teams in the 12 positions 1 through 12.
You got to go back to standard rankings. I don't even want to talk about reseeding. You go with the best 12 teams in the country.
1 through 12, make
I
it
don't the 12 that are picked, I don't even have that big of a problem with. It's just the seeding.
I mean,
yeah,
you say you don't have a problem with it, but would you pick Ole Miss, Alabama, or South Carolina to beat Indiana?
yes.
You'd probably pick all three of them.
Do you
I'd
pick
pick
a-
them
but
all to beat Clemson and SMU.
Well, South Carolina did beat
The
Clemson.
bottom 3 seeds are BS in this
and
playoff.
probably
right now.
probably Boise State.
Correct.
Yeah, but you have boy.
I mean, I could justify Boise being
Maybe
in
Arizona
as 12.
State.
I could justify Boise being in as 12. I'd justify Boise being in over Arizona State.
The one team they played, right, is Oregon, and they lost.
That's fair.
Narrow, but they lost.
And they're the 3 seed
And then the 3
with a
seed.
bye.
You got Arizona State. Who did they play? Who did they play?
They have 2 losses. Arizona State has 2 losses as well.
I mean, to me, getting SMU in, that was a surprise to me, and I think it's. I don't
In
know.
this system, I'm okay with it. In this system.
They shouldn't be in over Alabama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina. They wouldn't be if if 2 of those teams weren't as good as they were. What hurt the SEC is too many good teams together. What helped the Big Ten is 4
Super
good
top heavy.
teams and just junk
Garbage
after that.
after.
Garbage after that. And arguably garbage after the 3rd.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's not like you strategically can craft that, but you don't want a super league like the SEC.
Well, and the Big Ten didn't have them all play each other.
Yeah.
Which-
So not only did
No, they couldn't have
have
known that
a
about
top
Indiana.
heavy,
That just kind of
yeah, they
happened.
couldn't
Well,
have
that
done
happened for Texas too.
but they were
They ended up with 0 top 25
yeah,
wins.
Texas might be we really
Texas.
how much
and-
is Texas probably deserving to be the Ole Miss, South Carolina, or Alabama on the outside looking
I think
in?
Texas could be anywhere from 9 to 12.
Yeah.
Easily. I actually almost in a weird way was
But they're
not
set up,
just hoping for it, but I'm like,
they're set up
if
to
you
make the
really
finals.
look at their
Yeah,
schedule,
the
they
fifth
should be in that 9, 10,
Well, they
11.
did beat a ranked OU. They did beat a ranked Vanderbilt at the time.
But that's
They beat
silly.
a ranked Michigan.
That's ridiculous. A ranked OU? Come on.
A ranked Michigan.
Nothing happened
I-
for OU between then and then, right? So
Right.
they're not that good.
I
Well,
agree.
and
That's why I said they finished with 0 top 25 wins, but during the season they had 3 or 4 top.
But they said, I did watch a thing where they did say they do look at what the season ended, where teams ended up in the season a lot heavier
than what they
than
did
what
at the
they
time.
were at the time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
if that's the
bullshit
but
on
if
that.
that's the case, because Alabama would be in the
Based on
playoffs
that.
Based on that,
Exactly.
yeah, exactly. Where's Alabama?
or South Carolina.
Yeah, and why is SMU here? Why are we? I mean,
Who did SMU
I
lose
mean,
to?
SMU was a touchdown away from winning the Big Ten.
But who did they
That
lose
they
to
lost.
who did they lose to in the regular season?
no, not the,
I mean, the
ACC.
ACC. Sorry, the ACC.
SMU. Oh, check it out.
They
Yeah,
lose
check it
to-
out. Pull it up.
Who did they lose to?
Oh,
Miami.
No, it was a non-con.
it was a
team, I think.
non-con. I think it's a team that's in the playoffs. Come on, internet.
I don't remember.
The ponies are not that good. I'm just going to tell you, they're not that good. Well, and if you want to look further for further proof, look at the spreads.
They lost by 3 to BYU.
3 to BYU,
BYU.
who got waxed by Arizona State.
And then they lost to Clemson. Or yeah, lost to Clemson.
Lost to
in the final.
Oh,
Clemson. That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
BYU.
it. They lost 2. But I mean, they lost to BYU. Like,
Who did they beat?
Bama lost to OU.
They don't
That's
have any
about the
top
same.
25 wins.
They don't have any top
No.
25 wins.
So they beat Nevada, Houston Christian, TCU, Florida State, Louisville, Stanford, Duke, Pitt, Boston College, Virginia, Cal.
So they had the Indiana. They were like Indiana. They,
Yeah,
no,
they,
not even
they
as good.
went, they went
Not
through a
even- not
decent
even as good.
conference, but didn't play anybody.
yeah, didn't play
no, the
anybody.
ACC sucks.
Yeah, they're weaker than the Big Ten, and they didn't play anyone non-con.
I think they're weaker than the Big 12.
That's yeah, I think so too.
Like, I think the Big 12 's
Aside
the
from
third
maybe
best
the
league.
top
Very
is better.
comparable. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Miami was just out. Miami was the second team out, right? It
Well,
was
and
Alabama and then Miami.
And Miami deserved to lose a couple of games they didn't
Yes.
lose. However, if it plays out different and Miami's getting the nod and they're getting in, I feel better about that from a justice standpoint than SMU. SMU just doesn't deserve to be there. That's just ridiculous. That's silly. And I think this comes back to bite college football and the committee, etc. If they don't figure this out, because other than it makes the other bowl games a little more desirable, it's bad for the sport when your playoff contains these. If they win, yeah, that's exciting and that's fun, but it's not good football.
There is a bright side to this happening.
What's that?
Is this happened year one of the playoffs? So now they can go in and say, well, this was screwy. We need to think about changing some things like the seating,
Could be.
and stuff
Could be.
like that, where if it would have, everything would have went according to plan and,
Yeah.
and the playoff looked
The
good,
Yeah.
system's great.
then next year they're not changing anything.
Well, they won't change
That's a
anything
good
next year
This,
regardless.
this might have been year three that this happened, and they went, oh, yeah.
I
we
think
didn't
They
predict
can't.
it.
They can't change anything till 2026, anyways. That's
They
when
can
they're.
change their methodology.
Yeah, they can change. They can't change the number of teams until 2026, but they can, before the season, they can still vote to change how they do the seating.
I thought
See,
the,
I've
I
heard-
thought the formatting was set for 2
Well,
years.
The formal formatting of the four highest conference champions get the bye is set.
But how you
But
determine
how you
where
determine
people fall
everything
after
else after that's still up for grabs.
that. Gotcha.
See, like I've heard people talk about conference champions shouldn't get automatic bids. I
Agreed.
disagree.
I agree.
I think they should get an automatic
Well,
bid into the 12. I don't think you should automatically get one of the
Oh,
first
okay,
four,
I'm with you. I'm with you.
right? If you win your conference,
I'm with you.
you're one of the 12 teams that are in.
I'm
But
totally
that's
you
what
do
they did.
not have to be.
no that they got to
No,
buy.
But they got to buy.
Top 4 got buys.
Yeah, but Clemson didn't. Clemson won the conference, and they're 12.
But
they're not one of
but
the
they're
top
not the
4.
highest. They're not the highest. They're not one of the 4 highest ranked conference champions.
Oh, I got you. I get you.
So I totally agree with you. So that would have a Boise State and Arizona State seated somewhere south of 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would think,
You'd have.
honestly, I think you'd have Boise at, 12.
You'd have.
Right.
You'd
And
probably have
Arizona
Oregon.
State. Where
Arizona
are they
State
in the
10, 15th.
And the
or something,
AP takes
18th.
into account they're already thinking where is the playoff committee going to put these teams. So it's not even a fair representation of where people really feel these teams are. If they gave an honest appraisal of those teams, they'd be 12, 11, 10.
Yeah.
I think that would be a
I mean, it
big
should be
improvement.
what? Oregon, Georgia.
Texas.
I don't think Texas should be 3.
Oregon, Georgia, Notre Dame.
Well, Oregon, Georgia, Notre Dame, and probably let's see.
Ohio State being lower than Penn State.
Texas could be.
Yeah.
Texas could be 4.
Other than the fact that
They
they
lost
did
twice to
win
the
their
same
conference,
team.
I understand. Okay, so I understand on the Penn State, they win their conference. I get it that it was kind of
they
by the
didn't.
luck of
They
how
didn't
it
win the-
They
broke.
didn't win the
Oh, they
conference.
didn't win the conference.
Oregon won.
Oh, you're right. No, there's no reason Penn State should be above Ohio State. Yeah, no, definitely not. Definitely not.
Well, Ohio State lost to Oregon and Michigan
Yeah,
and didn't play in the top 8.
But they beat Penn State.
They did.
yeah. I don't think you should get credit as Penn State for losing the conference title game. You happen to get there and you lost.
Yeah.
No, because that's happenstance about who you played in the schedule. That just lucked into it.
Well, that's what's weird about SMU is if it had been, if they didn't play in the ACC championship game, I don't know if they get it.
No,
No,
they don't.
they
No
don't.
shot. No shot.
And didn't that mean
So they
and
got
that was
in for
because
losing.
Miami lost to Syracuse?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Well, if they finished
No,
11,
No, they would have played
No.
Miami.
They would have played regardless.
It's
Clemson.
Clemson.
Got in because
Oh,
Miami
right,
lost.
right.
if SMU goes 11-1, and their only loss is BYU, then they still would have been in the conference title game. I mean, Miami is the one that screwed themselves by not finishing the
They put
season well.
Clemson in.
They put Clemson
Yeah.
in.
right.
But if like SMU would have went and lost to Louisville, and they're a 2-loss team that's not in the conference championship,
Yeah,
or
they're
even a
not in.
2-loss team that makes the conference championship and loses,
No.
like you don't.
Then they're out because then Bama would have been
Bama
in over
goes in.
SMU.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 losses. Yeah.
3 losses.
And they should have been, but it shouldn't take that to knock them out necessarily.
Well, we've had our arguments. At some point, they're going to have to factor in the strength of schedule for teams because with the imbalance of the leagues, you can say, well, Alabama just take care of business if you just beat an OU or you beat a Vanderbilt and you would have been in. Well, you're not taking into account the
Yeah.
3 other major victories they had
Right.
that these other teams don't.
And what you're going to do is you're going to disincentivize them from playing anybody in the non-con.
That's all I saw on the internet when Alabama got
It
left
was
out.
all
Yeah,
over.
and people were
That's all-
complaining, well, they didn't
the
lose
whole
anybody in the non-con. That's not the point. The point is,
Yeah,
if you're just going to go off your
Records.
wins,
right.
wins and loss record, then don't even remotely take a chance of
Yeah,
losing a non-con.
Not even have to play your starters type of game.
Yeah, just there's no reason.
Yeah.
There's no reason for Texas and Ohio State game 1 next year.
But
For
I
either
think,
team.
Us in Michigan.
Us in Michigan, yeah.
Yeah,
don't
there's
play it.
no point.
I
Don't
think
play
you
it.
could give like a factor to the games that are being played. Like not just the rankings that the teams have, but like a 1 through 5 rating of what a win is for you or what it is for your opponent.
Well,
Like,
it's called strength of record. They have that. They calculate all this. The
Yeah.
committee should take that into
Yeah.
account.
and it needs to be
and
a
look
but it
at
needs
it.
to be a legit factor. Like it has to be something that is highly considered
Yeah.
up front in the
See,
consideration.
I think it's
Like
so
if-
corrupt though.
But like for
Yeah.
Bama, right?
There's
So
way too much
Bama's
bias.
Bama's got 3 wins over current top 25 ranked teams, committee ranked teams.
Right.
Right? And they've got 2 losses that aren't.
Right.
At worst, cancel
Yeah.
2 for 2,
Yeah.
and you've got Bama with 1 win over a top 25 team versus the 4 other teams that are in that don't have any.
Right.
Like that worst case scenario, cancel out the 2
no, I
extra wins
agree.
and 2 losses.
And you can break that down even further with how high the top 25 team was
Yeah.
that they beat. Like
Well-
Georgia was a top 5 team at the time when they beat them.
Well, and what strength of record will do, because you're doing it impartially as good as you can by math versus some eyeball test, you would recognize that the loss to OU was not as bad as the loss to OU seemed, because OU played an exceptionally hard schedule. And so it wasn't a loss to any 6-16. It was a loss to probably the best 6-16 who played the most difficult schedule of anybody that lost 5 or 6 games.
This is why the BCS was so great.
It was something that the BCS had an advantage, and it would be even better to introduce something like that better than the committee. The problem with the committee, where I think it's corrupt, is I say corrupt. I don't go so far as to think there's a conspiracy of they're trying to do this or that.
Yeah, I
or
don't think there's
payment.
conscious corruption.
Yeah, not conscious. It's just groupthink, and they latch on to here's what looks good and here's what would be fun. It's why I criticize the fact they were all in the same room watching the games together.
Yeah, that was a
Because
great
they're
point.
not bringing independent thought to it. It's one guy in the room, a strong personality, saying, "Look at this," and they, "Oh yeah, that's great. Look at that."
12 Angry Men.
It's 12 Angry Men. We had a movie about this in the 50s. So
And I lost a lot of respect for the committee just seeing their setup.
Yes,
Their,
absolutely.
the TV setup
You're
is
completely
horrible.
unqualified.
The
for
chair
this.
setup is horrible.
it's ridiculous.
There's no food or snacks around. Like,
They're
who are
30
these people?
They're
Yeah.
30 feet away from one 50-inch television and
Right.
2 32-inch televisions.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly.
I don't even know how you could properly.
And they're all sitting
Yeah.
in different
Judge it.
random chairs.
Yeah.
And groupings was the
There's
whole thing- the
no
whole set was
beer.
weird.
There's
They
no
were cupping
I was
queso.
waiting for like the
being
fold out
ridiculous.
camping
There's no
chairs.
nachos.
Yeah.
There's no nothing.
Yeah. Have a cheese fountain for guys.
I mean,
Yeah.
Shit, rent a theater out and put a 12 or a 3 split screen up there or
Well,
something.
Honestly, if you wanted credibility, you would have a better uniform looking setup that had all the games like on
If
equal.
they had different size TVs.
Yeah, different size TVs. And you'd have some statistics rolling. It's like, just give me the impression that you're using your
it looked
brain.
like college where you had one friend that had the big TV
Yeah,
and
he
he's like, "Hey,
brings up-
bring
hey,
yours, bring yours over." And you're like taking the fold out dinner
Bring your
table.
kitchen chair
and
too,
stuff.
because we're out of chairs
Yeah.
over here.
Yeah.
We need some of those metal ones.
It's all of that minus the natty light is what
Yeah.
that is.
They
what they're
probably
saying.
were drinking Natty Light. Those people,
It
they
was
just
bad.
disgust me. It was really bad. Well,
What if each one of them had to put their 12? And that was public.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually.
Because then
Live
you
up to
could
it.
then you can look at somebody and be like, "Oh, this person's a complete freaking moron."
Well, and I don't think they want that, right?
No,
they
of
want the
course not.
cover of here's what we came together as a committee to
Yep.
decide. I guess I could understand the argument against that, but I think at least they should independently bring their 12 and then hash it out.
Yeah, and that's
And
what
they should be strong enough personalities that they're willing to hash it out.
exactly, and that's what I mean. I do that in job recruiting. You go into your room by yourself with the candidates that you've interviewed and that everyone else has interviewed in the room, and you say, "These are my top candidates."
Yeah.
You all bring it to the table,
Yeah.
and you do have some crazy outliers, but that's where debate happens,
Right.
and that's where healthy debate happens if you're grown up enough and you're on a committee that was hired to do this should be able to do.
Yeah,
And it's just not
and
that.
seeing something that I pick up on that you didn't pick up on, and you see something I didn't see, and so we
And being okay with saying, you're right, I don't have this team in the right spot, or
Right.
hey, or being comfortable enough to tell someone that, hey, that doesn't look right because of X, Y, and Z.
yeah, you're not thinking this through.
Right.
You're yeah, it's frustrating. I think most fans feel the frustration on that too. One more thing before we get to some predictions. Schedule. The schedule came out today for OU for the 2025 season.
Lucas's aunt.
No no surprise from the standpoint of we know who we were going to be playing. It's just a matter of when. Very frustrating that, one more time to be frustrated at the fact they didn't flip the schedule with Texas so that we're playing the same teams. It's just now home versus away. Some difficult matchups and some difficult sequences there, I would say. So we've got a really tough, with Texas on, it's a pretty tough lineup.
It's 7 straight.
Because our patsy, Kent State, comes before all of that. So we may look real good with a record going into the meat of our schedule, but man, that's a real. We go to Texas, or Texas and Dallas. Then it's
South Carolina.
At South Carolina.
at South Carolina.
So you have two games that you're not at home. I mean,
Right.
You're the away team in Texas too.
Well,
so
either way,
that's back-to-back
it's
road
Texas,
games.
and we know
And then at the end of the season, you've got back-to-back road games again with
home games.
well, wasn't there another back-to-back road?
Well, we have Tennessee by Alabama.
Yeah.
So-
Okay.
so
Yeah.
you do have
Oh, I thought you meant at the very end. Yes.
No.
At Tennessee, at Alabama.
yeah.
Missouri at home.
Then the bye week.
No, it's
No, byes
Tennessee
in
by
between
week,
two.
Alabama.
So there's the only reprieve there.
It's still not a reprieve. You're still having to go back-to-back away games.
Oh, absolutely.
And having to
then-
do it twice during the year.
Against those teams.
That's a bad that's a bad setup by the SEC, if you ask me.
it's a very tough setup for Oklahoma, and there's no balance, right?
Right.
That's the part that's really frustrating is where's the balance with all of this. So, I mean, if OU wins, God, they're going to be top of the world.
Do we think the Kent State game being early was a conflict with Kent State's schedule? Like,
It could be, but why wouldn't you just move one of the not Michigan, but one of the
Illinois
other two?
State.
Yeah.
yeah, why would you not move Illinois State back?
Somebody write a check.
Yeah,
Tell somebody,
yeah.
let's do this.
Which I know Kent State was a late ad.
Oh yeah, so we
because
don't have our
didn't
patsy.
Well, we do, but it's early.
We play one conference.
No, but I
game,
mean,
and then you have your
but the
backup.
SEC always has that game before
like 3
your
weeks left in
rivalry
the
game.
season. Yeah.
It's the week before your rivalry game. Usually.
week
No,
before
not
week.
really.
Yeah, it is.
It's 1 or 2 weeks before your.
It's always the one before. It's basically a bye.
Well, this year we had
Well, not
Bama and
for us.
LSU back to back. We had
Yeah.
we had Maine before at Bama.
Well, that's because it's us.
We had Maine before we had Missouri.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It's usually with 3 to 4 games left in the season.
Yeah.
Except for the teams like Georgia who play Georgia Tech.
It's like a 3-week.
Carolina
Yeah,
plays
it's like a
Clemson.
3-week window.
Florida plays Florida State.
Yeah.
So there's a few teams that have in-state rivals that they do that with. But I mean,
It's
most- how many times do we see
unfortunate.
Alabama play Mercer or Citadel the week before Thanksgiving?
And
Absolutely.
they'll play.
Two weeks
They'll
before
do the
Thanksgiving.
same thing this next season. They'll have the same thing. I would like to go look at all the SEC teams to see if they play 4 non-con games.
So you can. They release a schedule.
I know, but I'd like to go
The
look at it.
only one that might be as tough as us is Florida, just
Yeah.
because of who
Yeah.
they got. Everybody else has got an easier road, and
There's-
maybe a materially easier.
I think
road.
Missouri will be down. So,
I do
but
too.
I think that's the only team in that 7-game stretch that won't be a top 25 team. I think we're
Yeah.
gonna have
LSU,
6 of
yeah.
7 straight top 25 games.
Which, I mean, yeah, you could have game day here or at our game, depending on where it is. 3 out of those 7, you could have. We could be the primetime matchup in multiple ones. That's all good, except when you don't win.
I'd rather have Missouri before Texas than Auburn.
And we
Before
just got
Texas.
done discussing how 8-4 is not going to get it done. 9-3 might not get it done. And 9-3 in that schedule, 9-3, that's an incredibly good record. That would be tremendous for anyone. That would be a really good record.
That would probably be 4 top 25 wins.
As long as your 3 aren't against, or 2 of your 3 aren't against Auburn and Missouri.
Yeah,
Auburn could end up being a good one. Don't lose to Missouri.
unlikely.
No,
Don't
but
lose
if that's
to
the case, then you'd have
Well, you can't lose.
5 top 25 wins and 2 bad losses.
Yeah. It's
Like
either 2 bad losses.
Yeah.
Or 2 good wins, quality
Yeah.
wins.
I'm gonna
or
tell you what's
quality
really
losses,
what's
rather.
bad about this for fans is you've got OU Texas on the 11th of October.
Uh-huh.
That's a road game. I mean, you're having to make a trip, even though it's Dallas.
Right.
That's a trip. Then you get at South Carolina. That's a road trip.
the next week.
You get the next week. Then you get Ole Miss at home. So then you get to relax. You're at home. But then you go road trip to Tennessee.
Yeah.
And then you go a bye week, so you get to save a little money there because you're not going to the game. But then you're immediately going at Alabama.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
So
would be
literally,
honestly
you're
would've been-
going out of 5 weeks, 5 games. 4 of those aren't at home.
if Tennessee and
So how
Bama
does a
would've
fan
been-
make all those games?
if Tennessee would have been back to back with Alabama,
Just stay
you'd
the
probably
week.
just stay there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, good point.
Honestly.
So in that you could lose very easily 4 straight games.
Yeah.
Which sets you up for a really
no, you can lose
difficult.
5 straight games.
Yeah, you
Texas,
lose-
South Carolina, Ole Miss.
So
Tennessee,
say
Bama.
you're good and you lose 4 of the 5, right? And then as a fan, to just add on to what you're saying,
spent thousands of dollars on these road
well,
trips.
even if you don't
in
spend,
that 4-week
even if you don't
period.
go to the road trips, I'm saying, like, how excited are you to come home to play Missouri and LSU when you've lost 4 out of 5,
Your
and now
season's over.
your season's kind of over. I mean, maybe you could. I mean, 8-4 is not going to get you in the playoff.
Not going to
So
get to an SEC
That's
championship.
really
either.
tough. It's not going to get you an SEC championship, and so that's going to be a lukewarm home to finish the
And
season.
you're not playing. You're more than likely not playing a spoiler, maybe for LSU. I guess if they do something, but you're not playing the spoiler like
The
we did.
Sooners
for
don't want to be a spoiler.
like we
The
did
Sooners want to be.
No, I
a
know, but
contender.
that's my thing. Like,
Yeah.
if the season's over,
Yeah.
the thing that got people to the Alabama game, OU's playing Bama. Like, maybe we'll pull something out of our hat and
Right.
upset someone. Like, the lore might not be there.
I mean, that's something we can't talk about enough. How they turned out for the Alabama game was very impressive for Sooner Nation.
Yeah,
That was incredible.
because we were all sitting here before the game saying how unexcited we were.
Yeah, that was.
It was the most
that was
unenergetic I've ever
crazy.
been before a game like that.
That was absolutely insane. That was tremendous how good we did. So maybe we'll do it again. I mean, if you win 4 out of those 5, you're on top of the world. And those are 2, and then it all works out great. And they're saying, yeah, now aren't you glad you got 2 home games to end the season? But it's going to take a monstrously good effort to get to that point, obviously. So it's a difficult schedule.
It's going to be so hard to win any of those.
I
away
hate to
games.
whine about it, but man, it's not fair.
Those away games are going to be tough.
It's
It's
not
harder
fair.
than this year.
It just seems to me like it's a
Oh, from
it's
an
an
away game
undue
standpoint?
financial
Yes, it
burden.
is.
I just think overall, in general,
On
it's
paper,
hurt.
it's harder than this
I
year.
would agree.
It's an undue financial burden on the fans to make you go 5 road trips out of 6 games or whatever that was, or 4 out of 5.
Well,
No.
and or to stay
5 out of
engaged,
6, yeah.
to stay to care, right? That's really tough. Not a fun even break. Well, let's talk about some
And
things.
there's no guarantee that when they change the schedules again, that we're going to get a patsy schedule like Texas.
No.
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't think you will.
No.
I think you'll get something in between the 2 things. Is
They
what
need to
you'll
go to
get
the
at
5.
best.
Is what they need to do.
They, well, and maybe they will, but even if you do, you'll still get a schedule that's somewhere in between how hard ours is and how easy Texas is,
Yeah.
right? It just can't be any different. You almost, and I don't think this was their design, but as it turns out, I don't know if you could design a schedule easier than Texas got, right? In the SEC.
Missouri's was really easy.
Missouri's was very easy. Yeah, they're both
You could
right up
put
there.
Missouri on Texas's schedule
Yeah, that
and
would,
take Georgia off.
right, that would do
That'd
it.
be it.
That'd be easier. And that'd be ridiculous, but it'd be
That
easier.
literally would be it. I think that's the only change you can
That's
make.
the only substitution.
Which Florida did end up being better than we thought.
Yeah, but I mean,
That was a team,
Yeah, that's
they
true.
won 7 games.
But I don't know.
They played
But-
Florida without Lagway.
but
Yeah,
who
yeah,
else
yeah,
would
yeah,
you?
yeah.
But who would you
They caught
swap?
him lucky.
Yeah.
Who would you swap from OU? Maybe Auburn for Auburn and Florida. Those are kind of equals.
Yeah,
I
that's
guess.
equal.
So I don't think you could necessarily swap Florida with a lesser team.
There's nobody else like a Georgia Missouri swap.
Yeah.
That's the only one in that group. Well, I got some trivia for you guys. So I look back at all of the seasons since 1945, which many associate with the modern era of college football since World War II. I want to see if you can guess where the 2024 season ranks in total margin of victory for OU and margin of victory per game. not too different, but there's a little difference between the two. In all of those seasons, so basically 50 seasons, where does the 2024 season rank for margin of victory in a total sense and a per game sense?
Total in 50 years, I'm gonna say 43rd.
Okay. What about per game?
Game. Blowouts.
Man,
I'll go middle of the road only
42.
because I think a lot of the earlier games were closer just because people didn't score as much. So the margin of victory wasn't
Average
large.
margin of victory has average score, therefore margin of victory has gone up in the last 20 years. This is true. Keep in mind, OU, I believe, I don't know this for sure because I only
I
tracked this
guess some
back
of
to
those wishbone
1970.
teams did. kill
OU is is probably the best margin of victory team in the history since 1945.
I'll go the other way because it must be a trick question. I'll say this was like a top 15.
Okay, Connor?
total, I'll say 32nd. Per game,
So I said 50, it's 80 years. I don't know why I said
oh,
50.
80?
Yeah, since
Since
1945.
45.
Since
Okay,
45,
so
it's
we're-
80 years.
I knew what you meant. I just wasn't.
Yeah.
We're ranking 1 through 80.
Oh, then I'm gonna go up then in mine.
Yeah. Give me new numbers. I misled you with that misstatement.
They all say 82nd and
80 out of 80.
out of 80. Sorry, I was going up to 100.
It's
That's what
bad.
it feels like.
It's bad, but it's
Okay.
not that bad.
68 and 42.
I'll say 53 total, and I'm gonna say game wise, I'm gonna say 61.
I'll just stay in the 30s because I think it's
So it's not a trick question. Your instincts are right. Lucas's instincts are really good. We averaged 33. Well, we averaged 2.75 points per game positive. We actually were positive this year, and a total of 33 net points per game margin of victory. We are it's the 69th best, worst, whatever you want to call it, season in total, and it's the 71st in per game. The best ever was
2008.
1986. Our margin of victory was 427 total points, and in 1956, 41 and a half points per game was our margin of victory.
that's
So in
That's
the Brent Venables era, his on the total 2024, like I said, was 69th. 2023 was 24th at 237, and 2022 was 67th at 38. On the per game, very similar, just slightly down, 71, 31, and 70 in the rankings. So we averaged 18.23 points per game margin of victory in 23. Pretty good and better than average over obviously an illustrious history.
so we're due for 18 next year.
So that tells me what's going to happen exactly. We're going to be in. Yeah, that'd be great. But it's kind of, the record is one thing. The margin of victory is something that backs it up in a different way, just to see where it ranks in the history. We've had 8 seasons where we've had a negative margin of victory. In 1997, one of the years of the Blake years that we compare ourselves to, we were negative 147.
Good God.
Which is also the worst per game, negative 13.36. That was a rough year. In 98, we improved. We were only negative 45 or negative 4.09.
95, the Schnellenberger year.
The Schnellenberger year was,
It's got to be towards the bottom.
I think so too. It was 75th, negative 42, and 76th, negative 3.8 per game. And what's funny is they started really good in that one versus others. I don't know. Kind of interesting, I think, to look at that history. It's tough to compare yourself to that history because it's an illustrious history. But hey, that's the Sooner record, and that's
Yeah.
that's the
That's what
standard.
you should be comparing it to.
That's the standard, as Brent would tell you, and I think he knows it as much as anybody. That's what we're up against. Well, I guess if you want to look back at the Stoops years, we could run through the Stoops years, but his best year ever was in total 2003, and in average also 2003. So
That's hard to believe that 08 year wasn't.
08 is right up there. It was so 2003 was the fourth best. 2008 was the sixth best. In average, it was the fifth and the ninth best, respectively.
Some random breaking news.
Yes, go.
There's been a new
Entry into the
head
portal.
coach. Nope, there's been a new head coach named Dan Mullen.
Huh?
He's taking a job.
All right, so we get to guess where it is.
Okay, all right. Good.
Well, he didn't take North Carolina because Bill
Right.
Belichick's there.
That's great. You realize? I didn't realize. This is right. I mean, I saw this on Twitter, or X. It must be right. He's coached in the NFL like almost half a century.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Started
no,
with
it's
the
insane.
Browns.
It's insane how long
Browns,
it goes to
Giants.
3-year, 30 million. We got.
Dan Mullen.
No, Belichick.
Oh, Belichick, yeah.
And he's
And he
We
guaranteed
can
his
do a
son
whole-
as a coach in waiting.
and
Really?
yep.
We could do a
And-
whole pod about
Yes.
that.
Their NIL's going from 4 million to
4 to
20 million.
20. He guarantees 20 million in NIL.
If you're Mac Brown, are
How
you
does he
pissed?
guarantee that?
Don't know.
Are you
Or he's-
pissed if you're Mac Brown
Yeah.
that they gave you 4 million this year and they're going to get 20 next year?
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah, you
worth it.
can't win.
Well, and
Yeah.
they got rid of him to get
Unless
younger.
Belichick
Yeah, to get younger by a year
is Belichick bringing.
because
Something?
Mac Brown's 73.
I mean,
and
is that,
Belichick's
but is that
72.
money Belichick money? I don't.
I don't know. Or they promised him 20 million NIL, or I don't know.
I mean, maybe talk Michael Jordan and donating 10 mil of that 20. Who knows?
Good
That,
point.
that's like 3 days of shoot.
But apparently he brought a 400-page
Manifesto?
manifesto
of
and
everything he wanted to do.
yep,
Yeah.
of his coaching staff, how they're going to structure it, how they're going to do this. He's basically said, I'm running an NFL minicamp
Yeah.
to move these
That
people
could
on.
okay. So I know we're really getting sidetracked from your
Yeah.
question, but it gives me more time to think. This could work.
It
Right?
could,
I mean, it's got all the elements of what we thought that Deion Sanders could bring,
with
plus
a track record
a
of,
track record of incredible success.
Yeah. yeah, who knows who is, wide receiver coaches and stuff. Yeah.
And he's in a league that he can win
Hell,
in.
Gronk might be their tight end coach.
Yeah, who knows?
for all
That's
we know.
true. But I mean, he's in a league where he could win. He's not in the SEC of the Big
All
Ten.
right, so back to Dan Mullen.
Back to Dan Mullen.
All right.
So-
The job was open.
I don't.
What was open?
UNLV was open.
Is it?
That's it.
It's it?
He's the head coach at UNLV.
Huh.
And that's better than OC at OU.
I guess. That's the only reason I brought it up. Was to discuss that because
He
that
wants to be in Vegas.
that is
Dan has
under-
a gambling problem.
that is very underwhelming. I
What did they guarantee
I
him? Like a suite, and he gets like free tickets
He
to all
gets,
the Cirque
he
du
gets to live
Soleil.
at Aria or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Penthouse at Aria.
He gets free pool time at the topless
that
pools.
would be kind of nice.
That would be okay.
Well, Bill
If you're
Belichick
into
would be
that.
setting the standard for new head coaching jobs.
Yep.
Hey, I got a track record. Here's my list of demands.
Well, I mean, stuff like that gives a little more credence to the Mike Tomlin was,
Yeah.
put
In the
put
mix.
feelers out for the OU job.
Yeah.
After Lincoln left.
That would have been insane.
That would have
We'd
been.
be so great if Mike Tomlin.
How would we feel about Bill Belichick? I think we'd be feeling pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I don't want a 72-year-old head coach.
I don't
That would
either.
be tough.
No, but
I don't want a named coach in waiting.
No, that.
Yeah.
The
yeah.
thing is, I don't think he has to recruit. If that sounds weird, I think
Right.
he's selling it
no,
to
for sure.
these
Right.
kids.
I don't
like,
think he has any desire to.
but I don't think he's even gonna have to. Like, I think the kids are just gonna come
So it's Deion Sanders.
to be in that
Yeah.
pipeline,
but
basically.
not as cool. Like
Bill
Deion's got
Belichick's cool,
Deion's got personality for that.
He's gonna be in that cutoff
Belichick
North
does.
Carolina hoodie, looking like a freaking couch potato.
Yeah. I mean, it
It's
might
gotta
work
be
and it might
intimidating,
really
though.
not work.
They're not
How
gonna
do
be
you
good.
how do you think when you're standing across the field with another coach? Like, I'm coaching against
Well,
Bill freaking Belichick.
Here's what would kill you.
What if he brings in Rabels at DC? That would be.
Yeah.
Would be
He
amazing.
creates the New England Patriots of
Oh,
college
yeah.
football.
Yeah.
What would kill you is
Bill
you're not going to
O'Brien.
outsmart this
Well,
guy.
No, you're not
his,
gonna. No.
his son's.
You're
his
not
son's
out
OC at
scheming.
DC.
He's going to scheme
He's a
everything.
DC.
He's going to know everything. That's where he gets you.
I think so.
I mean, you look back at the
I think where he might be
The-
disappointed that I say he hasn't thought of it. he's got limitations on practice time and
Right.
and players
Right.
and all this other stuff. That might hinder
Well, the NFL
his
does too.
greatness.
They've got the players union that negotiates all that stuff.
Do you think
So-
they're already deflating the balls?
Yeah.
So, you look at the Dan Lanning little opportunistic get the intentional penalty to beat Ohio State. He's going to know every scheme like that in the book. He's going to always be able to outsmart you on those things. Now, what he might get frustrated by is one of the things they recruit for in the NFL is IQ. And one of the things he definitely looked for was IQ. You're limited. Now, North Carolina's a smart school, whatever. You're limited to college athletes. And you may be limited to guys who just don't know enough. They're not football smart enough to know what to do, when to do it.
Yeah, he could go too schematically strong.
Yeah.
For his college kids to pick up.
Yeah. He might
But he's a defensive coach.
get ahead of his skis a little bit.
It'll be interesting to see who their OC is, honestly.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, his whole staff's gonna be.
But he is in the ACC. And
North Carolina's not too far removed
you don't
from
think he
being
could be
good.
better than SMU?
And you're going 5X on your NIL this year.
Yeah,
That's a huge jump.
it's a big jump. So
Mullen to UNLV is
I'm
pretty
already
good.
penciling them in for the playoffs next year in my ACC spot.
Why would Mullen take that job though? Mullen was marketing himself like he's like, hey, I'm
I'm too good for.
an SEC coach.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
Right.
I belong in an SEC school.
Now he's in the Western. What are they called now?
Nobody even knows.
Are they in the Mountain West?
They're
Mountain West.
Yeah, they're with
Mountain
Boise.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, from that standpoint, he could be the next Boise. I mean, obviously, but
Oh,
wow.
that's fine.
I don't know.
That's a-
So between the two, who do you think has more success? Belichick or
I mean, how many seasons is Belichick going to coach?
say over the next
Two
three?
or three?
Say over the next three. Who has more success?
Well, what did UNLV go this year? Didn't they go 10-2 or something?
They were
crazy?
top. They were the.
Yeah.
They were
They're
Boise
ranked-
State's only
they're
top
ranked number
25 wins.
24
They
right
beat
now.
UNLV twice.
I don't know.
I'd say Belichick just because the talent is going to be better.
Yeah.
And the NIL
Yeah, but the
and the
opposition's
school.
going to be way easier for UNLV.
So he's got to kill in the portal though, right, to get good because he's already missed
they're
the
not
recruiting
good right
season.
now, yeah.
So
Yeah.
he may not be that great this year. Maybe it'd be next year. I don't know. Well, let's get to some predictions that we want to make, and those would of course be the locks of the week.
The Realist Deal Locks of the Week.
And the locks of the week are brought to us by 5 Star Concrete, David and Josh, a local firm servicing the metro area. They do concrete and they do it well. From patios, sidewalks, driveways, shops, and more. Call them or text them at 405-306-3014 or look them up on Facebook, 5 Star Concrete. So I'm going to try to pull up our stats. I think I had them up. I did. This past week, I fell back into familiar territory at 1-2. Connor was 2-1. Lucas was 2-1. Jay, familiar territory at 3-0. The listener at 2-1. So for the season, I'm at 40%, 18-27. Lucas is next at 44%, 19-24-2. Connor, 49%, 21-22-2. Jay, a winning record, 69%. I don't think mathematically, I don't think you can have a losing record at this point. You're 31-14-0. The listener, 26-19, 58%, beating Vegas. Be a listener. You make money. Just don't listen to me when you make your picks, or do the opposite maybe. So I'll start us off. We got a limited pool. We're going to look at the games from here through the 21st, which would include the first round of the playoffs. And of course, the Army-Navy game this coming weekend. I'm going to start with that because I am focused in on Navy. That's our opponent in the bowl game. So I've been doing a lot of research. I've watched a lot of tape. I've got Army giving 6.5. I think they're going to beat Navy. Navy's looking ahead. I don't know if you guys realize that. They're looking ahead to the OU game. They're out of focus. They're deep underwater. SMU getting 8.5 against Penn State. I know they go on the road, but I think they can do it. And I got another road team, Tennessee, getting 7 against Ohio State. I think that Tennessee is going to prove to be a little too strong for Ohio State. I feel like Ohio State is going to be smarting from this loss to Michigan, and they may play too tight. I think that they're going to be coached tight because I, I, I don't know. I think that it may be win or you're done with the Ohio State regime. Connor, what do you got?
I'm gonna stick with you with Army. Watching them beat up on Tulane, and given Navy's a completely different type of offense, and they know how to defend against what Army's running, but Army looks good. So I'm gonna take Army as well, giving 6.5. I'm gonna take the opposite of you on the next game. I'm gonna take Penn State, giving 8.5 against SMU. I don't know.
Going 12-0.
Guess we'll see.
No, it's going to be weird. We're going to do
We'll
this.
see what the ponies can do. And then I've got Notre Dame
I like that.
giving 7.5 against Indiana.
What a ticket in Indiana for that game. I mean, you got, I don't know how far the distance is. At 150 miles. I don't know how far.
I
it
didn't
is
even
between
I didn't
those
even
two.
think about that. That's incredible.
Yeah,
Actually,
Bloomington.
that's
to
pretty.
South Bend.
That's pretty awesome.
that's a hell of a
That's
matchup.
really, really cool. I've got some friends going to the Penn State playoff game, so
Oh wow.
told them very jealous.
I have Memphis -4 against West Virginia. They are out of coach and looking to hire Rich Rod from right here. Bringing him back,
Yep.
even though he left on pretty bad terms
Bad
when he took the
terms.
Michigan job.
Yeah. Now where is he right now? He's at
Jackson
State.
Jacksonville
Yeah.
State.
They won big.
Speaking of, I have Ohio -2.5 against Jacksonville State. Hopefully, he's taking the other job and they're scrambling for an interim. And
Good
I
thinking.
also have Notre Dame -7.5 against Indiana.
That is a 3-hour drive between Bloomington and South.
3 hours. And think about this. This is a point I'd made earlier in the season. When you're looking at these, who gets the home field, I have to think the committee thinks about who can host a game and who can't. What a difference it would be if Indiana was hosting that game in their stadium versus Notre Dame. That's a world of difference between those two.
Same thing with
I mean, that's probably,
Yeah.
I'm just going to guess that's 20,000 seats, probably.
Yeah.
Difference.
be interesting to see SMU go into the cold of
That's true.
Beaver Stadium.
All right, I'm with Lucas on this. I'm going to take Memphis for the same reasons against West Virginia. I'm going to take Florida -14 against Tulane. And I'm basing this off the fact that since Mensa is in the portal and
Yeah.
committed to Duke, he's not playing that game.
Yeah.
But he might be playing. I don't know.
Might be
Thought
part of the
about that as
14
well.
points, but yeah.
And then I'm going Notre Dame as well against Indiana.
Wow, let it ride.
I think Notre Dame's in a weird way is just very overlooked right now.
Oh, I think so too. I think there's a good chance that they work their way through.
And
the
they had a
playoff.
horrendous loss early
Yes,
in the season.
and that was it.
And they just snuck by really like after that and started killing people.
Yeah, I agree.
Their defense is really good. I'm not sold on Indiana.
I agree. Well, what do you got on a listener?
Oh yeah. Bryson
What do you got, Bryson?
has sorry, I should have had that pulled up.
Well, I should have.
Know where he's at on my phone anymore.
Sorry, Bryson. You've been forgotten.
Okay. Bryson's going with UNLV +2, Clemson +11. I like that one. I think Clemson went it straight up.
I think you're right. I
And
hope
I
so.
would love nothing. more.
Tennessee
Did you see how-
+7.5.
Tennessee +7.5. Okay. I like that.
Clemson beats
Wait,
Texas.
7.5. I have 7. I'm gonna get his 7.5. We can get 7.5 on
Okay.
that deal. So yeah, I think. I mean, I don't
That's a
know.
lot of points.
That's a lot of points. It's a
Tex-
lot of points for a
Texas is
team that
just
hasn't
not-
beat anybody.
Just not that great.
They're
They're just not.
It's moved up. It.
I
didn't
worry
open
about
that-
Klubnik against that defense though.
Yeah, I think Texas defense is completely legit and by far kept them in every game
Because
because
Georgia made Clemson look like a freaking D2 team when they played them. Given that was week 1 and they figured it out a little bit, but I don't know. That offense makes me nervous. And a bad win.
It's a lot of points.
It's a lot of points. It's a lot of points. And Dabo, for as much as I don't like him, he's a good coach.
He'll be playing the underdog card for sure.
Yes, he
Well, he
will.
already is.
Yes, he will. So what's our prop bet?
Oh. So it's again for the same timeline as our picks. There are 3 of OU's opponents playing bowl games.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Over under 1.5.
Current or current plus, maybe.
Not counting it.
Not counting maybe. So who do we got? We got Tennessee. It's a record. It's not covering the spread.
Correct.
So we have Tennessee, Texas, and Tulane.
Who's Tulane playing?
Florida.
Against the spread. Texas, Tulane, who's
Against the spread? This just wins. Winning their bowl game.
Oh, just win.
Just win.
Just wins. Texas, Tulane, and
Tennessee.
Against
Tennessee.
Ohio State.
So we got favorite dog.
And I'm gonna go with that exact prediction. I think Texas manages it. I think they figure it out. I've got 1 and 2. I think Ohio State wins. They're in desperation mode. And I'm with you on your lock, Jay, as well. Without Mensa, I don't think Tulane is gonna play very well, let alone win the game. So I've got Florida beating them. So 1 and 2 is my guess.
So you're under.
Me as
No.
well. Under.
So you got Texas.
Winning.
You have Texas and Ohio State.
Texas and Ohio State. So the cumulative record for our opponents will be 1 and 2. 1 win for Texas, a loss for Tulane, a loss for Tennessee.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
You got under.
I got under.
I got over. What do you got?
Tulane loss, Texas win. I think Ohio State pulls that out. So under.
Under. I'm the sole over on that deal. Well, we all want one thing to happen. That's probably the one win we all think is going to happen. Although I don't know. You did say that you thought Clemson might pull it out outright.
I'd like 2 and 1 with Texas losing.
Oh, that'd be beautiful.
I'd love to see Tulane beat Florida. I'd love to see Tennessee beat Ohio State.
Yeah.
That would be the meltdown in Columbus would be so awesome. And then I want to see Tennessee try to go plant the flag and have a bunch of felons out there.
Get a felony charge.
It'd be awesome.
It'd be great.
It'd be ridiculous.
Tennessee's a funny team because they
They're so
can
hit
be
and miss.
really good,
They're hit and miss.
and then they can just not be very good.
Yeah, they can lay an egg.
It's kind of
They have had some time off.
What's their best
I
win?
don't know.
Bama? Bama's their best win. Lost to Georgia.
Lost to Georgia.
Lost
beat us.
to they lost another game. Who
Did they beat
lose?
South Carolina?
I think they might have thumped some.
That's what I was thinking too.
Who did they lose? Who else did they lose to? Did they lose to Florida?
Yes, I think they did lose to Florida.
Let's see. Tennessee lost to Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
They
Speaking of
beat.
laying an egg,
Ooh.
So they beat us.
even OSU could beat
They
them.
beat Florida. They beat Bama. They
Lost to
lost to
Texas.
Georgia.
Texas.
No,
They can play Texas.
Georgia and Arkansas.
Florida played Texas.
No,
No, Tennessee.
Oh, Tennessee. Gotcha.
Yeah. So
What's their non-con?
Kent State.
Chattanooga, NC State, Kent State, and UTEP.
Yeah, they had chalked up the NC State game to be a big one,
And it
and
wasn't.
it wasn't.
Well, I don't know. A lot to be determined. We're going to get the first
It's
round
gonna be
of the
fun.
playoff to go through. That's going to be fun. We'll be back to talk about that. We'll be back to talk more specifically about the OU Navy game and obviously back to talk about the portal and hopefully how successful we've been in the portal and what we've done. Thanks again, of course, to Dr. K and all the good work that he does. Anything else before we sign off, guys?
It's gonna be okay.
It's going to be okay. We're getting there. We're getting there. It's a rebuilding year. It's a rebuilding off season. And it's going to be a fun bowl season. It's going to be fun to watch the playoffs. It's gonna
Playoffs are
fun
gonna be great.
Playoffs are going to be awesome. But hopefully, as much as I badmouth it, I'm really excited. I hope that they're like a whole bunch of upsets, right?
I do hate they're doing a Friday night game.
I do too.
Like
They make.
just pile the floor.
Did you
on.
notice they did it twice?
Yeah.
They
Georgia has an extra day in their bye.
It's all goofy. So
Everyone
they-
plays on the 31st except Georgia. Georgia gets an extra day.
and then in the so they do the
You get the
20th?
NFL thing?
20th, 3 on the 21st, and then 1 on New Year's Eve, and then 3 on New
No,
Year's
they do
Day.
3 on New Year's Eve, 1 on New Year's Day.
Oh, it's 3 and then 1?
Oh, pretty
I thought
sure.
it was 1 and then 3.
Pretty sure Georgia's the only playoff game.
No,
I mean, I think the reason they didn't do 4 in 1 day is because just stacking the time
Time.
frames.
Yeah.
You got the 11 o'clock slot, you got the 2:30 slot, and you got the 6 slot. You really can't. You don't want to have 2 playoff
See,
games going on at once.
yes, except like
don't
when I
have a
was
10
watching
PM
championship week, we had
No,
30
you're
minutes
right.
of dead time.
You're right.
I mean, I guess I get it, but it's just
You don't want to have 2 going on at the same time. Like,
Like
Yeah,
I just
okay,
like
you had-
watching the Big Ten and
you
the
had-
ACC game at the same time. I
I'm
didn't
with
like
you.
that.
I'm
Yeah.
with you.
Boise State will play the winner of Penn State and SMU on New Year's Eve as the only playoff game. So Penn State and SMU will have a standalone game. One of those 2 teams will have a standalone game both times.
So, you know what? We didn't do any predictions
For what?
on who's going to make the next round playoffs.
You want to do it? Give me some. Throw out some predictions.
Alright.
Put yourself on the record.
Let's do it.
You got 4. Unless you're going with an upset, you got 4
I'm
easy.
just saying we have games coming up.
Yes,
so
we do.
We have to.
I like it.
If we're going to do it, let's do it.
We're gonna
Um,
pod next week too, though. So
That's true.
Yes,
We're going
we
to
are.
pod. Okay. Yeah, we'll do it next week.
Yeah, let's do it next week.
Okay.
The
Because
18th,
we'll get a
talk
pod
about
in
that.
before the games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That,
I'll send you my notes.
we'll dial in on that one. All right. We'll be seeing you back here, all 4 of us back here. And until then, Boomer.
sooner.